about real things across generations. Generational banter. Real talk about real things across generations. Generational banter.
I'm Nalasha.
And I'm Damali.
And this is
Generational Banter.
But now, what's up, mother? What's been going on with you? How's your day?
Hey, daughter. Well, what I'll say is today is a different day in Oakland. It is rainy today.
Finally.
You know, sometimes we've been doing these episodes and it's been warm and I've been like, ooh, global warming is really a thing. Today it's a little rainy, so it's more kind of the fall-y, wintry vibe.
As it should be.
And with
California is so bipolar. Oh my God.
Yeah. With those fall-y, wintry, I'm a little bit more mellow today.
Nice.
As Bob Marley would say, a mellow mood has got me. Do you know that song? That Bob Marley song? Okay. We'll talk about that later.
Another time. I'm doing well myself. It's Sunday,
Yeah, let me.
You know.
Hold on.
Well, you
hold on.
Pause.
Pause.
You obviously don't care.
How are
so
you?
Stay over there. No. Stay right there.
Hold on a second. Let's replay this. How are you, my daughter?
I'm fine, mother. It's Sunday. Like you said, I get the mellowness, cause you know it's been pretty chill. When it's like rainy and stuff, I like to be able to just relax and chill. So that's what the day's been for me. Work tomorrow. Excited.
And can I just say something? I want to just let folks know we are filming in our home in Oakland, and so there's so many neighborhood noises. Like right now I'm hearing a little dog barking, and then sometimes we have neighbors passing through. So I just want to say, disclaimer, we got that going on. And we're here to talk about something I think that is pretty significant. We're here to talk about something that has a very heavy vibe. It's very heavy. And so today's generational banter is probably going to be a little off the beaten path because we're going to be talking about the war in Palestine. And I felt it was important. Bless you, beloved.
Thank you.
I felt it was important to talk about it and have this generational conversation about it. So that's our topic for today. And so we invite you to stay with us, to tune in, to listen to this conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you like me to begin?
Yeah, you
with
can.
the question to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds good.
What do you understand? What do you know about the war that is currently happening right now in Palestine? And that's the main question. I do want to acknowledge that there was an event that happened in Israel as well. So there was an attack by an organization named Hamas. So I just want to name that from the beginning, that we know that happened, and our hearts are with the people who have been victims of the attacks in Israel, but also the war in Palestine. I wanted to say that from the top, and now I'm going to get back. What do you understand about the war that is taking place in Palestine?
Well, I understand that it is a very big thing. When I first was seeing things about it, I saw a lot about Israel, not much about Palestine. But then as I really looked into stuff, things are really bad out there. That's what I understand. It's really, really bad. Lots of innocent kids and women and families dying, injured, lost even, you know. So very bad, very disastrous and sad. So that's what I would say. That's what I've understood so far, you know, on my side of stuff. What about you?
So yeah, what's interesting about this is that my understanding of what the conflict that has been ongoing between Israel and Palestine didn't begin with this war. So my understanding is that after World War II, so in 1947-48, Israel decided to occupy the country that is Palestine. So Palestine was a full-fledged country, and Israel, based on this idea that the Jewish people had a holy land of their own, decided to occupy Palestine. Palestine is, from my understanding, a largely Muslim country, and Israel is a largely Jewish country. And so my understanding, like I said, goes back, that it didn't begin a few weeks ago when this latest conflict started. It began in 1947-48. And from there, like any people who've been pushed out of their land, we saw that in the United States with the Native Americans. We've seen that all over the world. But in this case, people resist being occupied. People organize and create resistance movements. And so my understanding is that the Palestinians over the years have had different resistance movements. What I also understand is that Israel has continued to push people out further and further out, has taken more Palestinian land and property, has really displaced more and more Palestinian people over the years, and has also made ongoing very aggressive attacks against Palestinian people. So there have been times when Palestinian people have been murdered and killed the ways that we're seeing now, but they just haven't had these kinds of headlines. So this is my understanding. And then my understanding is that a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago when this began, an organization named Hamas, which is labeled in the United States in particular as, and I believe in Israel, around, some folks in Israel would label Hamas a terrorist organization. I don't know about Hamas. I have not done research on Hamas, so I won't comment on whether or not they are a terrorist organization, but that's what the narrative says. So a few weeks ago, apparently Hamas launched some kind of attack in Israel that killed people on the Israeli side of this conflict. And from there, the government responded with more than attack, what I perceive as a terrorist, as a kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Its own form of terrorism. State-sanctioned violence against civilians, against hospitals, against churches. The government of Israel has launched a war, an all-out war against Palestinian people. And the issue is so often people in particular in the headlines will talk about Hamas attacking Israel, and that'll be the full stop. They'll talk about the fact that that was such a horrible thing, but not talk about the horrible things that are happening on the other side, that the Israeli government, which is bound by UN conventions, the United Nations is like a global governing body. There are certain rules to war, which I disagree with war wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But there are rules to war. You're not supposed to attack civilians. I believe you're not supposed to attack institutions like hospitals and those things. But that's what Israel is doing. And so you'll hear a lot of people use the words ethnic cleansing. And ethnic cleansing is ultimately when you are trying to wipe out a whole group of people. So what I'm understanding is that Israel is really trying to wipe out Palestinian people. The state of Israel, the settler colonial state, which means that they came in and occupied Palestine. So they're settler colonists. This state is now trying to wipe out Palestinian people. And we see it's just everywhere. The babies, the children, the families. There have been so many children screaming for their mothers on social media. This is what I understand is happening. It's a genocide. And I feel like we have to keep saying it. That's my understanding.
Okay. A deep understanding. I feel like I'm very, in this realm of stuff, I feel pretty uneducated. So that's why I have like a brief synopsis. But when you say so, it's like, oh wow, it's a lot more than I knew, you know? So that's good. I'm glad that I get to learn about this stuff.
Do you think, and this is a follow-up question to this first one.
Yeah.
Do you think that you're taught enough in schools about the international community, about the things that are happening in the world outside of the United States? I mean, you went to public schools. After we left Jamaica, you moved here and went to schools beginning, I think, in the first grade. So you've had a lot of American public schooling.
Right.
So what do you think? Do you think that they teach enough about the history of these countries?
No, of course not. I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like America has this agenda, if you will, where they keep certain things untold, you know, on purpose. Because I feel like a lot of the things that happen in these countries outside of America has to do with America in a negative light. America never wants to highlight stuff like that. Things that they've done wrong. Take ownership and accountability. So definitely not. I don't really know much about.
You know, America's been really good at indoctrination about like trying to sell its own story as this freedom, this bastion of freedom. But honestly, if you dig into America and its relationships with other countries, it has a very oppressive history.
Right.
It has removed leaders. It claims to respect. It claims to be a democracy. It claims to respect sovereign countries, other countries which are their own independent countries. But it has, if you study the history of America in the global community, it has displaced leaders, like pulled leaders out of their positions, been involved in coups in other countries. It has a dirty, messy history that we don't have time to really go into here. But even what it really like, the narrative it's developed, the Islamophobia, you know, after 9/11, it went on a pretty significant campaign of Islamophobia, which is basically demonizing Muslim people. And so there are a lot of people who are impacted by that, and people around the world. And so America, I think, as a country that has its own apartheid state, that has really committed its own acts of domestic terrorism against people in its own country, the enslaved, the descendants of the enslaved, and the Native Americans in particular, has a real history that I think it's time for it to take responsibility for. And I think that one of the first steps that this country could take is to actually show up for the Palestinian people in this moment. And of course, that would mean also showing up for the people in its own country who are going through this very apartheid system itself. So, you know, this is not for me let's focus on the Palestinian people and not think about the people right here in the United States who are still catching hell, right? This is a both and. But you see, like Dr. King and so many people like him, right, have said, like, you can't see injustice somewhere else. And he has a real quote, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But ultimately, it's like, you can't see that happening and act like it can't happen right here. You know, this is the reason to speak out about injustices, so that we can name them, so we can stop them from continuing to like ripple throughout the world. So America, don't get me started.
Everyone has a problem.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Beyonce.
So here's the second question for us. We're gonna move into our second question.
Okay.
Why do you think Black people or other people who have been disenfranchised, historically marginalized, care so much about what's happening in Palestine? Why do you think you see so many activists and folks talking about Palestine in this moment?
I would think I have different answers to this, but I'll definitely say I feel like marginalized people understand. You know what I mean? I think they can reason and be humane with Palestine because if you go through history, that's what has happened to their people. You get cast out, casted away. You don't get the help you need because you're not on the right side, if you will. You know what I mean? Which has always been the case from what I've seen from the history that I know. I would definitely say that. But also, I feel like in this, I don't want to say there's a right and a wrong, but there's definitely a, like I said, humane way to look into these things. When you see all of this happening, when you see hundreds, maybe even thousands of kids dying, families being torn apart, that's, like I said, that's been a tale told throughout history. That's always been the case. It's not right. So I would hope that, I'm glad that Black people are doing that. But I see why, because Black and marginalized people can understand that, can feel that in different ways. You know, maybe not personally going through that, but like I said, when you know what we talked about before, when you know your history, you can move forward not being ignorant to things like this and really being able to say, oh my gosh, I might not be in Palestine, but I have kids, or I'm a minority where my people have been affected by wars or injustice. So I can see where just reposting something, or, you know, I don't know, maybe a GoFundMe or an organization where you can send supplies, food, water, whatever, that search parties, I don't know. But some type of support, I could see where that comes in for sure. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes. What about you, Mommy?
I think, like you said, we understand. Like, oppressed people understand what it feels like to be attacked, to be the target of oppression, right? The thing is, I think, when I think about my own ancestors, like, I think about the journey to Jamaica on ships. When I think about the fact that I descend from people who were enslaved people, and that I'm connected to a diaspora of people who have been enslaved. Living here in the United States, I don't feel very different than living, say, in Jamaica, in the ways that as Black people, we entered that space in bondage. And over generations, we're continued to be subjugated and told that we were less than human, right? And the generations is played out. It's the way people have thought, the superiority complex that is whiteness has played out. So even in Jamaica, which is like a majority Black country, there's still so much colorism and so much classism and so many isms from what I label and other scholars and people have called white supremacy culture. So as people from the African diaspora, we have experienced oppression at so many levels. So when we see it, no matter where it is, we recognize it. And we recognize that that is not something that oppression does not see another human being's full humanity. Right? Oppression of any form, including this war, genocide, and ethnic cleansing, is a tool that says you are less than human. You are not as human as I am, whoever is on the other side. And that is why I think Black folks, other folks who've been disenfranchised and marginalized, speak up, stand up, because it's like, oh, I see what's happening here. I see what you're doing. I see the weapon that you're choosing. And this is this divisive, dehumanizing weapon to make whoever is deciding to be on the side of oppression those folks think somehow they have some superiority in this instance. And I think when I think about faith-based people, so I'm talking about Jewish people, Christian people, Muslim people, people who embrace African spirituality, Rastafari, faith is supposed to be a healing balm. Faith is supposed to be a galvanizer, like how we build together. But when it's used as a weapon, it can be very dangerous. It can be very dangerous. And what you see often is this division between Jewish people and Muslim people, Christian people and Muslim people. It is a tool, again, a weapon. And so I think us as black folks, especially black folks who feel connected to some purpose, justice, love, even faith, feel compelled to speak.
Yeah.
Right? Because they see the weapons being formed, and they see that the alternative is speaking truth to power, is being out on the front lines, protesting. The alternative is to be about love in action.
Yeah.
So, wow. I got more questions.
Yeah, go on ahead.
You know I got questions. So, to just go back a little bit, I think social media has been so active. I've actually felt pretty proud.
Yeah.
Of the content creators on social media, TikTok in particular.
Yeah.
But Instagram has also been a real, it felt like a real organizing platform in some ways, with information sharing in particular.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what do you think you've learned about this particular historic moment through social media?
Well, I'll say I was talking to you and Saz about this yesterday, but I have a friend, her sister, I follow her on Instagram, and I'm just scrolling on the stories, and I watched hers, because she posts about it every day, like, which I love, but she made a video pissed, like, oh, the fact that so many people could be on this app and just post about everyday things, but there's thousands of people losing their lives in Palestine, and nobody can even repost anything about it, that you should feel sick. Like, she said that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm one of those people. Like, it made me think, oh shoot, she done called me out. And in that moment I was like, but she's correct. If this were to be happening over here, God forbid,
right.
You would hope people are bringing attention to it. Because, like you said, if we're going to call a spade, that's genocide. It's murder. Innocent life. So I said to myself, oh, snap. She's right. I have to, even if it's just the simple act of reposting something that I see, that's what I'm going to do. So as soon as I saw that, I reposted something that I saw about Palestine and all the things that are going on over there. But then even on TikTok, there's a lot of creators that are like comedians, that are like hilarious, and they make their content off of being funny. But there is this one guy, he's really funny, but a black man, I can't remember his name, but if it comes to me, I'll let you know. He made a post about Palestine, and he was like, I know I come on here and I tell my stories and I'm fully myself and I'm funny about things, but I do want to be serious and say, we gotta pray for Palestine, whatever. And it made me think, wow, that's really dope of you to really put down the comedy for a second, and be able to be serious, because this is a serious matter. So things like that made me realize, being able to spread the word is a big deal. And social media has been a huge part of that. Put me in check about the whole situation. So I appreciate the knowledge that social media has given me about Palestine and the people that are real serious about it. Both black people, by the way. Well, both young black people, like they're in their 20s. So that's what I was there. What about you, Mother?
I thought you were never going to ask. Similar. So here's the thing I'll say. I must say this. I've known a little bit about Palestine for a long time. Meaning, thankfully, I grew up with conscious parents. And, like my dad, who was a politician, government minister in Jamaica, and at one point even held the position of Minister of Foreign Affairs, had not only was out in the world doing this kind of work where he would meet with government officials and come home talking about some of the things, of course, no state secrets, but just ideas around some of the ways that governments were defending their sovereignty at a certain period of time, were really engaged against apartheid. So there are things like that my dad would bring home, and that I could understand some of these issues at a different level because it was part of what we talked about, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thankful that for a long time I've understood that there was this history, that there is this thing happening, right? But I will say that there's a lot I didn't understand, right? Yeah. And even there's a gentleman named Yasser Arafat who was a significant leader in the Palestinian, I believe, freedom movement. I think he was part of an organization called the PLO, if I'm correct. But he was villainized by the United States. In many ways, any conversation about Yasser Arafat came out of him being a problem. But if you I saw a video on TikTok, I think, giving some background about him and trying to break down actually I think the PLO and Hamas, trying to give us more information about those different organizations and the ways they've operated in Palestine. And so I feel I've deepened my understanding in the last several weeks because of social media, honestly. Yeah. I think I've really appreciated Palestinian creators, Palestinian American creators. I've really, really deeply appreciated voices like Linda Sarsour, who is an outspoken Palestinian activist, but have been part of the women's movement, the women's march, a few back, I think, when Trump was first elected, they organized a women's march. We actually went, all of us, in Oakland when they had a version of it in Oakland. So what I'm saying is Linda Sarsour is this very public figure who has been outspoken about Palestinian freedom, but in the last several weeks has been really just out there, getting her point across around the imperative that is the freedom for Palestine. So, I have really appreciated, so I feel I've learned some new things. Okay. And I've been exposed to what Palestinian people think. Because I guess my point was I've always been exposed to maybe, from a Jamaican context, what daddy thought, or hearing the U.S. political machine, or hearing black activists. So I've mentioned that Angela Davis has been about freeing Palestine for a long time. People like her have kept it alive for black activists. Okay. Because again, I think she understands well that you can't have silos with this stuff. You have to have people across diasporas coming together. And so in the end, I'll close with this. I feel the current social media movement has really helped me understand. And Sean King in particular has been posting videos of things that are happening. When there's a killing, babies dying, hospitals being blown up, he posts it. And it might be triggering and hard, but it drives home the point that your friends are making on TikTok, and your friends who you talked about on Instagram, and it drives home we can't be silent. We can't just do business as usual. And so I've appreciated that about social media, honestly.
Yeah, me too. Being sure,
Yeah.
to drive home the points. I love that.
So let me ask you a hard question here. I'm going to ask a hard question.
Question.
Why do you think the United States, its government in particular, and some of its political leaders are so outspoken in defense of Israel? So they have not said much about Palestine other than Hamas, what they have labeled a terrorist organization, attacked Israel. Other than that, not hearing President Biden, Vice President Harris, or any of those mainstream leaders really come out and say, free Palestine, ceasefire in Palestine. Why do you think that is? Just from your 20-something-year-old seat, so you don't have to know everything. Right. Why do you think that is?
Well, I'm just going to say, I think in this case, Israel has the upper hand. So they're going with the people that are of power, if you could say that. I feel like it's easy to side with the people that are the oppressors, because this country, it's the same thing I was talking about before. Mm-hmm. It's easy to be the oppressor and go side with another oppressor than to do the right thing. That's how this country operates. We were talking about it yesterday. A lot of people, they make sure not to say certain things because they don't want to hurt their brand, and whether you're governor, president, vice, they don't want to mess with America and what America stands on, which is white comfortability. You know what I mean? I'm sure Republican, which is not all white people, but you know what I mean, conservatives, they're not going to want to hear in this white ass country that they're siding with Palestine. They're not going to want to hear that because they're not the ones that have the upper hand. That's how I see it. You know, maybe I need to be educated on it some more, which I'm fine with, but that's how I really view this. Like, why would we go side with the people that are going through it when we can side with the people that, you know, got the most power and are able to have the most resources? I feel like that's what America always does. Like I said in the last video, America with 3 Ks. That's how I always see it. You know what I mean? Until there's some drastic change. That's how I see it. What about you? Is there similarities between us? You know, I know I be talking crazy, so I don't know. I don't know.
You don't talk crazy. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on what you said, and I would probably add that they're locked in to almost an agreement around oppression of people who represent kind of like more freedom and more true liberation. It's like, you know, there's the political side, which is that Israel is uniquely positioned in the Middle East, in the Arab world. It is the one kind of non-Arab state. And so America has a lot of enemies in that region that have a lot of wealth and power. And so America is not willing to, and by America, the government, the folks, right, in power, are not willing to actually recognize the humanity of folks over their power in the region. So there's that. Then I think there is the connection of, hey, you know, oppression recognizes oppression. Oppressors recognize oppressors, where it's okay. They sleep at night knowing that babies are dying. They sleep at night.
Because they're not the ones that are dealing with that. You know what I mean? So, of course, they're sleeping at night. That's how I see it, too. Yeah.
I'm assuming real well at night. As people are being stripped from their families. I mean, there are these videos of these young children crying because their parent has just been killed. And, you know, making orphans. That's what's happening right now. The United States, Israel, and the powers that join Israel are making orphans. You know, I've seen videos of Palestinian doctors learning that their children or their parent has been killed while they're in there trying to save lives. This is some real shit, you know? And like, the thing that really disturbs me is that, like I said, I believe they're sleeping at night, feeling real good about the fact that they have held on to their political capital to, I guess, commandeer that region of the world. But it's a crime against humanity, and it's being done on America's watch. And, you know, we talk a lot about this idea about electing officials, especially into the role of president, the lesser of two evils kind of deal. We talk a lot in our household about the fact that I have been a champion to say, yeah, we got to vote for Biden. We got to, because, the strategy is blah, blah, blah. But right now, the fact that we have a president, a Democratic president on his watch that is not saying much, if anything at all, about the genocide of an entire people because they want to commandeer and they want to be like cool with Israel and the politics that is oppressive politics, that is state sanctioned violence, that is terrorism, and they don't want to name that. I got a real problem with that. I'm gonna have to sit with what that means for me come the next election cycle, to be honest. So that's, why do I think they're doing it? Because that's what they do. So you and I agree. Yeah. And it could be different.
Oh, definitely.
Can I say it can be different? We can decide, even superpowers can decide to be humane. Even countries with lots of resources and wealth can decide to stand for humanity, to stand for people who are being murdered. They can decide differently. And that's really what I believe needs to happen.
Yeah.
Leading into the next question.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Leading into the next question. What would you like to see happen in Palestine?
Help. I want them to get the help that they need. And whether that's hospital support, medical support, whether that is shelter support, you know what I mean? Seems like a lot of help is needed over there. So that's what I would love. And for this to end, that also, you know what I mean? That's the main thing. I feel like with all that has already happened, why would this need to carry on? Like, shouldn't have happened in the first place. But come on now. So that's what I would say. They need a lot of support. Because, whoa, a lot has happened over there. And in a pretty short span of time, too. When I first heard about it, I want to say I first heard like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And a lot has happened. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Let's give them the support that they need. What about you? What would you say should happen next?
I think a few things should happen next. I think there needs to be an immediate ceasefire so that Israel is not attacking civilians, hospitals, churches, places where people live and go to school and do the things that they do on a given day. I think that the United States, I would like to see the United States do us right by the Palestinian people. I know they have an agenda in Israel, but could they do us right by the Palestinian people, which is to use some of the power that they have to be sure that these crimes against humanity do not continue, that this genocide does not continue. I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see some repair and atonement to the Palestinian people. I'd like to see the level of atonement. We have a reparations movement in the United States, and globally, there's a reparations movement to encourage and invite and insist on the repair to people who are the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. The indigenous people in the United States the Native Americans have a whole, they have their own movements around land back, right, relationships, right? So there's this idea of repair and finding a way forward that is right and just for the people who have been hurt, harmed, violated. I would like to see that. I would like to see Palestinian people have the type of atonement and repair that they need. And I can't know what that is that they need. I believe that's where the voices of the Palestinian people come in and will continue to come in. They're there. So the voices are already there. They're already naming what they need. It is about listening to what they need and ensuring that that happens. And I believe that the Israeli state, the settler colonial state, needs to answer to the Palestinian people about what they need. Because there's one thing to occupy and decide that this land is yours by some divine right, but to recognize the people who are there first and to find they've been in negotiations. There's so much history of talks between Israel and Palestine where people have been trying to understand that. How can we live together? How can we do this in a way that is humane to the people of Israel and humane to the Palestinian people?
Right.
People, this is not me, people have been at this work for generations. So my wish for them is that they would find that path forward that allows for the liberation of the Palestinian people. That's it.
I think that's a good one.
I think this is our conclusion.
We got good ideals.
You have anything else you want to add? Is there any?
Well, really, all I want to add, I really hope that more people take notice and really pay attention to this and really are able to extend their hearts and prayers to the people in Palestine, because it is really sad. It's really sad. It breaks my heart that all of that is happening. When I saw that hundreds of kids have passed away, I was like, oh God, that's not good. You know what I mean? That's never good. And it's not necessary, you know? So I would say keep your prayers. And everybody, please, like, out there, if you are needing this, like, keep being aware of your humanity in all of this. You know? That's what I would say. We need more humanity when things like this happen.
I think you said it. We need more humanity. The babies, holding the babies, the families, the children, all the people actually. You know, it's not just children. You know, grown-ass adults are hurting.
Yeah.
And so all the people, free the people.
Yeah.
Free the people of Palestine. Free Palestine.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.